another title. I got to give Bryce an A during his time, A- at the worst. But Milroe, just too inconsistent. I mean, and then he had a 4-loss season this year with 3 of the losses to me directly tied to him. We kind of talked about that yesterday. The Oklahoma game was a horrendous performance. Tennessee, horrendous. Michigan, horrendous. Now, Vanderbilt, good enough to win, no question. Defense had their, kind of their low point there. And somebody else, I saw this on social media. And this is a pretty interesting stat. After that Vandy game, Scott, where a lot of people fired, Kane Womack and the defensive staff as a whole, I think Alabama gave up 14 points a game. So they were pretty good the rest of the year. Okay, they did their job. So I just think overall it was a B because he put up some numbers. You just went over those numbers. He did finish 6th in the Heisman voting as a redshirt sophomore. Pardon me, he's a redshirt junior this year. And certainly entrenched himself, and that's what entrenched him as the starter this year, because if he doesn't finish last year strong, then we're not even talking a B. He may not even have been the starter in year 1 under Kalen DeBoer, but he earned that. He was the best quarterback on this team the last 2 years, and again, he's going to be drafted in the NFL, in my opinion, anywhere from the 2nd through the 4th round. I don't see him going as low as 5, 6, 7, just because I think it's a weak quarterback class, and there's going to be teams because of his skill set like a Lamar Jackson. They're going to and he's going to interview well. We've all heard him. I've interviewed him. He's a very well-spoken kid. Never got any sort of trouble. Very good academically. He won the Campbell Trophy for the academic Heisman basically this year. So he has a lot going for him. So he will get an opportunity in the National Football League. So again, you have to give him a B. Now, did he drive me to want to drink alcohol at times? Yes, he did. I mean, was it tough to watch offensively with, basically hitting the bull quite a bit, which is most of his senior year, what turned out to be a senior anyway, his redshirt junior year? Yes. But again, overall, he had a good 2-year-plus run as a starting quarterback at Alabama. And, again, he's going to be drafted in the NFL, so you have to give it a solid B. I just wish for his sake he could have played better in his last game because, again, I think all the rest of the football teams, the funny thing about hearing the national media is, well, I can't believe the team looked so unprepared to play in the bowl game. Well, first of all, the defense wasn't unprepared to play, and neither was the special teams. The offense looked unprepared to play because the quarterback stunk. Okay, and before you start firing the offensive line coach and firing the offensive coordinator, I saw pockets, I saw time to throw, I saw open receivers. The quarterback didn't execute. And if he's making $2.5 million a year, his ass ought to be called out.
Do you think he had 1 foot out the door already?
Well, I'm not going to say that. I mean, I think the whole plan before this year was for him to leave. You know what I'm saying? But every quarterback in his position, and even before that, Tua Tagovailoa, who left early, Bryce Young, who left early, they're all going to be planning an exit strategy. But they still go out and perform. So I'm not going to say he had 1 foot out the door. I mean, I know he's getting criticized. I think he was doing some NIL videos or something right before kickoff. But, look, the hay should have already been in the barn. He should have played better football, and he didn't. And again, he's going to have a really good pre-draft process, but I think he'll interview well. He certainly, if they want him to run a 40, he'll run it in the 4.4s. And then, as far as a 7-on-7 against air, I'm sure he'll throw it well. I mean, they all do in those settings. So he's definitely got a pro arm. So it's just going to be convincing that one organization. But I will say this, he is not a guy, and he didn't do this in college, you should not be counting on him to play next year. It should be one of these things where a winning organization, and I've seen him drafted in mock drafts, and you know how much I love those, Scott. But anyway.
Oh, mock drafts are one of your favorite things
there's
of
only
all time.
7,520. I get people telling me, did you see this? In this mock draft, he went 9. In this mock draft, he went 5. In this mock draft, he went 25. In this mock draft, he went – shut up. Whose mock draft? How many of them are there? I listened to Mel Kiper. I mean, he's done it for 40 years.
You should create one.
come on. Do I think he's a first-round pick? First of all, no, I do not. I think I think his ceiling is the second round because Jalen Hurts went in that round, and I just don't think he's polished enough for them to invest a first-round pick in him, Scott. Now, if he had a better year, if he had built on the Georgia performance when at that time, Scott, you remember the aftermath of that. He made a first pick. He's a lock for the first round. He's a Heisman candidate.
That's the thing, though. He vaulted to the top of the Heisman standings after that game. I mean, he was everything. It was, oh my gosh, Kalen DeBoer is going to mold this guy into a first-round pick, and it's going to be everything, and it's all this. And then it was just like it literally in 7 days went from him being this to the Vandy loss and it being, oh my goodness.
But he did play well enough in that game. But it was more what happened after Tennessee, Oklahoma, and then this Michigan game. He did not play well. So, but do I think he has the tools and the character and some of the other intangible things? Yes. So I think that's why he will go. I'll say again, second through fourth round. And it wouldn't surprise me if an organization like Baltimore, I've heard Pittsburgh mentioned, somebody that's got a quarterback, because in my opinion, I think Russell Wilson is going to have, a window in Pittsburgh. I don't know how big, but I think he's going to have a window.
Right.
And then you would have Justin Fields, but then you could have Jalen Milroe as your developmental guy, your third guy, where you could invest not a first-round pick again, but like I said, these rookie contracts are actually the cheapest ones. That's what I always kind of have to smile. They're like, well, what about your salary cap? Actually, when you first sign a quarterback, now that they have a rookie cap, that's the easiest time to do it, because once they come up for their extension is when you're talking about $30 to $50 million a year.
Yes, you get these guys on these rookie deals, and that's why and I know this is a little off that side topic. That's why these 49ers liked Brock Purdy because of his rookie deal.
They're talking about his extension now. Yeah.
Yes, and he's not getting paid a ton, but the investment that they have in him is a lot right now. And so they're getting the most out of his rookie deal. So Jalen Milroe would fit into that type of mold.
Yeah, and so that I think, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, somewhere like that has, a quarterback of his skill set. And they already have Justin Fields too. But, Russ is still more of a passer, but he's definitely a mobile guy. And definitely we know Lamar Jackson's who he's been compared to. If an organization like that took him and let him sit for 2 or 3 years, that would be, I think, the most ideal situation for Jalen Milroe, because I don't think he's ready to play in the NFL. Honestly, I think he could have, used another year of college football, but I think he and his dad, and it's what I was talking about earlier about already having a plan and an exit strategy, because trust me, if he had decided, and I know they put out the word yesterday that, well, unless barring a last-minute huge offer from another school where he'd go into the portal and transfer, he's going to go to the NFL. Look, man, if he had declared that he was going into the portal, he would have had offers, because, from what they're telling me, I thought Riley Leonard had a redshirt year. In other words, another year at Notre Dame. They're listing him as a senior. I guess this is it for him. We know we're going to talk about that in a second, where the dogs, choked all over themselves. And then also Miami, because we know Cam Ward has moved on. I've even heard Michigan mentioned because of Bryce Underwood being a freshman, and we saw Michigan's quarterback situation. I mean, hell, the guy that finished the game, the sad sack third stringer, whoever the hell it was, that Alabama, still couldn't beat. He's going in. I think he had already declared for the portal. And then, of course, Warren, who started, it was a senior and a walk-on. So, again, there were going to be situations he could have gone to and been paid well. But I think the end game for him was always the NFL. And if it works out, if his process goes well, and you end up, even at worst, a second-round pick, and somebody invests money in you to develop you, I still think it's a good situation for Jalen Milroe. So, and I think it's the best one, because I think it gives him a chance to develop, because Jalen Hurts didn't start right away either. So, and he was a second-round pick. Now, within a year, he was the starter. But I think with Milroe, it's just a situation where he needs development. Now, the NFL is not the greatest place, in my opinion, the way it's set up now to develop.
Right.
But, I mean, it's not like it was 20 years ago. Remember, Aaron Rodgers waited a while. Now he's, in his 20th year, and he's had a hell of a career. Steve McNair, things of that nature. They don't really do that now, but sometimes things come full circle. And I think an organization, if you want to make Jalen Milroe his best, then I think you need to invest in him and develop him because, again, Nick Saban said the same thing when they signed him out of high school. He's like, this is not a democracy, it's a dictatorship. And, we're going to develop this guy as a pocket quarterback, as a quarterback. He's a great athlete. He needs his skills developed. And he kind of hit a ceiling. I mean, he had 3 different OCs at Alabama. I think in some ways he needs to be a little more coachable. I think he reverts too much. But, again, I still think he has a lot of potential, and you just can't coach some of the things he does. And that's why he was so intoxicating, because you saw some of the things that he did both years against LSU, that he did in the Auburn game at Auburn last year when he brought him back to win that game, that he did, against Georgia this year. He has those tools.
Not to be lost in Jalen Milroe declaring for the draft. Tyler Booker also declares for the draft. Jahad Campbell also declares for the draft. So Milroe, not the only one making his future plans known.
Yeah, and I'll just say on those real quick. We talked about them on the show, Scott. These were guys that we all expected. I mean, and I didn't know if they'd have, because under Coach Saban, sometimes they'd have media opportunities in a press conference and things like that. You didn't know how that was going to be handled, but I did feel like it would all happen in one day, which it did. They decided to all release their own statements, and they did them in order. And Jahad Campbell, he declares, and he's a top 20 pick, so you don't blame him. Jalen Milroe declares after him. I think that was what everybody was leaning toward, that he was going to move forward with the process, that he was going to – they had already, chose who he was going to train with, may have already picked out his agent because, of course, now you can hire agents in college. Don't know if you're going to switch in those situations. And then Tyler Booker, I mean, he's a guy that I think is going to be the top guard in the draft. None of these, these situations where these guys declared for the draft were a surprise if you've been following it closely.
All right, it is 7:29. Let's get our break in here, because when we come back, we'll turn our attention to the Sugar Bowl, Notre Dame and Georgia. We'll check in on that, get some recap there, and what does it mean going forward? What does it mean for the SEC this season? What does it all mean? We'll answer a lot of questions with that coming up next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. A partly sunny sky this afternoon. Temperatures climbing just into the mid and upper 40s. We're going to see the sky clear as we head into the overnight. Early Saturday morning, that's going to allow temperatures to drop into the mid and upper 20s. A mostly sunny sky Saturday afternoon really is going to look nice. Plenty of sunshine. A beautiful Saturday, but we are going to be cold. The sunshine doesn't necessarily mean we warm up. Highs only climb into the mid 40s, dropping into the mid 30s as we head into the overnight early Sunday morning. Rain's going to begin to build into the Tennessee Valley Sunday morning. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
From heirloom diamonds to contemporary jewels, Loring & Company is the place to find something truly special. Whether shopping for a diamond ring for that once-in-a-lifetime occasion or marking a milestone birthday or personal achievement with a Rolex watch, you'll find just the thing in our edit of the world's most sought-after brands, including David Yurman, Roberto Coin, Marco Bicego, and Fopé. Expect a treasure trove of the world's most unique, even breathtaking earrings, rings, necklaces, and bracelets, making choosing just one piece a challenge in itself. Loring & Company Jewelers on Airport Road.
You want the right specialist for your recovery. At SportsMed Orthopedic Surgery and Spine Center, we understand every body is different. Your muscles and bones are unique, as is your body. Our SportsMed specialists offer innovative treatments and minimally invasive procedures, allowing you to quickly return to the life you love. Locations in Huntsville, Madison, Athens, and Decatur, and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com. Improving performance, improving lives.
Here in North Alabama, barbecue is a part of what makes our home so special, and great barbecue from Lawler's makes it just that much better. Since 1978, Lawler's has been serving up their delicious barbecued pork, ribs, chicken, ham, and turkey for generations of family get-togethers. Recognized as the best barbecue joint in Alabama for 2 years in a row, Lawler's is thrilled to share their award-winning barbecue for your next family meal or catered event. Order online or stop by any one of their 14 area locations. Lawler's Barbecue, cooked slow, served fast.
The new Cheeseburger Bobby's on Carl T. Jones Drive in South Huntsville is focused on serving great food prepared with the absolute freshest ingredients, featuring classic hamburgers and cheeseburgers with lots of specialty options, chicken and hot dogs, even turkey burgers and veggie burgers, along with fresh cut fries, onion rings, or coleslaw. Always fresh, never frozen, except for the frozen custard. See all the delicious options at Cheeseburger Bobby's for yourself. Check out the menu and more at cheeseburgerbobbies.com.
Online at 977ESPN.com.
Stream them online.
Call in.
It's an important job, and it's an vital organization.
Tweet in and join in. We are 977 ESPN The Zone.
All right, welcome back. 7:33 Friday morning. The SEC, the premier college football conference, will rely on Texas to bring home a national title. This after Notre Dame gets by Georgia yesterday in the Sugar Bowl. 23-10, your final there. That was the last of the inaugural 12-team quarterfinal playoffs. Irish, they win a school record 13th game. And, Drew, that was their first major bowl win since the 1994 Cotton Bowl for the Irish as they advanced to the semifinals.
Did they have DVDs then?
In what, 94?
I think that was still VHS, right? Or is that just the beginning of the DVD age, I guess?
I would say that would still be – I was in college at the time, and I don't remember having DVDs in college in 94, so I'm going to say VHS.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's still going to the drugstore and buying like a six-pack of tapes.
I still think definitely there was Blockbuster Video still around in 94. But I'll say that they will advance to take on 6-seed Penn State in the Orange Bowl. And there's a lot being made about this game. And, Drew, there's a lot being made about one particular play, and that is the Notre Dame bringing 11 guys on the field at one time, like a mass substitution during a punt and whatever. It resulted in Georgia going offsides.
Yeah.
But there's a lot being made about that play, and there's a lot being made about the lack of success in the playoffs for the SEC.
Oh, and that's rightfully so. The SEC has been a disappointment in the postseason, Scott. If you think about the fourth down play that Texas had to make against Scatterboo and Arizona State, the SEC is dangerously close to being eliminated and not having anybody in the Final Four, which really would have been humiliating. Because then, you've got, even though they were seeded ahead of Texas, yet they were a double-digit underdog, Arizona State would have won it, and they would have been in the Final Four, and then they would be facing the slaughter of Ohio State. And then, of course, we would still have Penn State and Notre Dame. And so, like I said, the SEC has been a disappointment. Now, Georgia had some tough luck. I will say, I don't know if there's a team in the country, especially on offense, that had more injuries than Georgia this year. And more time lost to, on the field. ETN 4 games. Cash Jones, he wasn't available half the time, it seemed like. He was hurt some yesterday too. It's like, where's he at? They were talking about how he was shaken up. Branson Robinson during the year was out. That's why Frazier, a true freshman, was their leading rusher. Then you lose Beck, and I'm just sorry, but it's just like the NFL now from the standpoint of this, and especially when you're talking 15, 16, 17 games. If you lose your quarterback as a college team, a starter, you are really in trouble. okay, because especially with the transfer portal. Because, as you know, all the players have all this mobility, and the quarterback position sees more attrition than any of them as far as transfers. If you lose your guy, it's going to be very, very difficult because we talked about this yesterday. I was very fascinated to see what the offense would look like with Gunnar Stockton. There was certainly more quarterback run. There was certainly more zone read, option type stuff, but they struggled throwing the football. And Georgia already had issues at wide receiver, okay? Because they didn't have really explosive dudes. And then guys like Dylan Bell, who's one of my personal favorites, he played in this game, but he was hurt throughout the year. And so they had the strength of their team offensively was their group of tight ends. Now, they didn't have a Brock Bowers, but you had Delp. You had all these guys, Lawson Lucky, that can make some plays. And so they had 3 or 4 good tight ends that could make plays in the passing game. But I'll just say what caught up to Georgia is not being able to run the football that well all year.
Right.
This was probably Kirby's weakest team when it came to the running game. Part of it was because Etienne got hurt. But they just – and Notre Dame, credit to them. Look, I'm no Notre Dame guy. You know that. But Marcus Freeman is a defensive guy like Nick Saban was. They're really, really good in defense and special teams. I mean, let's not get it twisted. This is not a juggernaut offense. I mean, think about it. I mean, Riley Leonard threw for 90 yards. Did throw a touchdown, no turnovers, but he threw 90. And then the reason Georgia lost this game is they did turn the ball over in the red zone, and that's what hurt them really bad. And then I thought it was before.
You're good.
No, I was just going to say, I thought what sealed it, though, it was the 13-3 game at halftime. That didn't go great. But when you give up the dang kickoff return, you know, 100 yards right out the gate in the second half, and you're down 20-3 with a backup quarterback, you're in big, big, big trouble.
So the amount of success that Kirby Smart got out of this Georgia team this year, and when we were sitting there in Dallas,
right,
they were the favorites. They were the favorites to win the SEC championship. Everybody labeled
Georgia and
them
Ohio
in Texas.
State were they were the two favorites, basically.
Yep. But did Kirby Smart, the way everything unfolded for Georgia this year, is it similar to what Nick Saban got out of his final team and getting him to the playoffs, getting him to the semifinals with Washington, against Michigan last year, getting him that far? And you sit there and say, look, this team Nick Saban got everything he could out of this team. Did Kirby Smart get everything out of this Georgia team? And that's, getting them to where they were at is about as good as they could have gotten?
Well, I would, especially with the injury to Beck, I would still give him an A-. I would be honest. I wasn't sure they were going to hold off Texas once he got hurt and couldn't go back in the game. So to be able to beat them twice, win the SEC championship, and I know they ended up not winning a playoff game, but getting them to this point, I think, was a great accomplishment. Because he had so many injuries. He even talked about it in Dallas about depth due to the NIL and things of that nature. You don't have as much. I thought he managed it really well. And let's not misunderstand something else. This Georgia defense was not a typical one under Kirby. They were really good, but they weren't as dominant as some of his other ones. Jalen Walker won the butt kiss and things of that nature, but they weren't as good up front. So I'll just say I thought he did a really good job. I know he's getting criticized, talking about 5 losses. And again, you can't get ahead of yourself. Well, he's going to dominate college football now that Nick Saban's retired. Maybe not. Because, again, injuries play a part. Injuries robbed Nick Saban and allowed Kirby to win his first national championship in 21. So they're part of the deal. You got to manage it. Do I think Georgia wins this game with Beck? I do. But unfortunately, he went down. We see Gunnar Stockton's limitations. And now the biggest question for me for Georgia is, are they going to attack the portal for a quarterback? Because I just don't Jaden Moneybags, Rashada, whatever his name is, I don't buy him as being a good player. Heck, if he was, why the hell wasn't he playing? They played Gunnar Stockton. Right. So I just wonder if going forward, is Georgia going to try to get a quarterback? Because that's what you got to have. Beck's out of eligibility, had a good run at Georgia. But, again, overall, I think Kirby did a good job. It's just he didn't have enough ammunition left by the end, and that's what it is. It's a battle of attrition sometimes. You got to have those breaks, and you got to stay healthy, and certainly Notre Dame's done that. They've overcome that horrendous loss against Northern Illinois, and now either Marcus Freeman or James Franklin. James Franklin, it is on a silver platter for you, brother. You could not have had anything opened up for you any better. If you do not make the national championship game, you should be fired. Okay, this is a good Notre Dame team, but I think Penn State is better. It's a golden opportunity, and when you go back and think about it, if they play Ohio State, which would be my prediction, and it's a disgusting all Big Ten championship game, I'm sure Wolverine Dan will be running through the streets. It's celebrating because the Big Ten is the best conference this year. But it'd be a rematch of a game we saw earlier in Happy Valley, which Ohio State won and controlled. But again, and I think Ohio State's the heavy favorite, don't get me wrong. But if James Franklin's biggest albatross has been winning big games, right? So, but if you end up winning 3 playoff games, that's going to shut a lot of people up. And Penn State has not played for a national championship, I guess, since they won it with Kejana Carter and those cats. I guess in 91.
Well, it was, they didn't do anything in the BCS era, and they didn't do anything in the playoff era, the initial 14 playoff era.
They did not. Yeah. So this is, and I think they've set a school record for wins because with all these extended seasons. So again, right now somebody going to be dusting off some VHS tapes, either Penn State or Notre Dame, and they'll actually be playing for a national championship. Even though Notre Dame, to their credit, played for one against Alabama. It was a good scrimmage, Scott. It was a good scrimmage.
It was a good scrimmage.
For Alabama. It was a really good. You were there. It was a really good, scrimmage for the Tide. Yeah. And then they got to the playoff and got whacked by the Tide in 20 as well. Another good scrimmage. But right now, one of these two teams is going to play for it all. And if you're the Ohio State Buckeyes, you got to be really confident. Now, Sark's going to have something to say. You called them the Buckeyes. But I mean, right now they're the best team in the country. I'm not going to sit here and BS people. I mean,
I know. No,
everybody's
seen
the
best
dudes
football.
they got, the talent they got. They got them. I'll be honest. Ryan Day's going to hear about it again if he doesn't win this because it's right there in front of him. I mean, yes, he couldn't beat Michigan, blah, 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 but who cares? If you win the national championship, he will never be fired at Ohio State. Let me say that one more time. If he wins the national championship at Ohio State, they will never fire him.
So that win yesterday by Notre Dame, for those that pay attention to the money involved in this sport, that win for Notre Dame was huge because every team in the college football playoffs that makes the semifinals, you guarantee your conference $14 million. Okay, so for Texas, the SEC picked up $14 million. That'll be distributed through the revenue sharing. Same way with Penn State. Same way with Ohio State. They picked up $28 million for the Big Ten. Notre Dame, because they are not in a conference, Notre Dame will pocket the $14 million themselves for making the semifinals.
No doubt. So they're gonna be rolling in it. Yep. And big time NIL for them.
All right, let's get a break in. When we come back, we're going to hit the phone lines. We got Pat from Tuscaloosa and we got Richard. So let's get a break in and we'll visit with them on the phone lines coming up next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Specializing in simple and affordable rentals, McCurry Van and Car Rental can make sure you have just the right vehicle for your next family vacation, weekend getaway, or if you just need transportation while your vehicle is being repaired. McCurry carries Ford Transit vans and Mercedes Sprinter vans, trucks and work vans, and more. And they offer discounted rental rates for long-term rentals. Now with 4 locations: Athens, Muscle Shoals, Coleman, and Huntsville. Log on McCurryRentals.com to make your reservation now. That's McCurryRentals.com.
If hunting and outdoor recreation are your passions, it all starts with the right property. That's where I come in. I am Bo Butler with Southland Realty and Auction, a hunting and recreational land specialist and a Jackson County native who sees land through a hunter's eyes. Just as you trust your guide on a big game hunt, you can trust me to find the perfect property for you. Thinking of selling? Let me help you make your land attract buyers. Remember, Bo knows land. Call me at 256-609-0512.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs: residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single-ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding the solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing, we have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com.
Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Scott Theisen, Drew DeArmond, 256-576-4977. It's the number of the phone lines. You can join us this morning. And just a quick update on our poll question. What grade would you give Jalen Milroe? Right now, 36% say a B, 40% say a C, and 22% say a D. So nobody going with that A listing for Jalen Milroe. Let's go to Pat from Tuscaloosa real fast. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, Pat.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, Happy New Year. Thank God and Greyhound, he is gone.
Are you talking about Milroe?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I agree with you, Drew, a B, but I've got it as a low B. And simple reason, inconsistency, just like you said. I cannot explain LSU. I was sitting there in the rain watching that mess, watched him run for 180 yards, and then he goes to Norman, Oklahoma 17 times. The absolute offensive coordinator. Now, you said don't fire the offensive coordinator. Doing something consistently over and over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. 17 times he ran the ball with Milroe.
Yeah, he did. I mean, they tried to and they tried to direct run it with the running backs, if you remember, at the start of the second half, and they were having success. And then they tried to throw the football, and he threw 2 horrendous interceptions. So,
exactly.
He didn't execute the passing game at all.
Yeah. Can you explain to me why? And I really think Jalen didn't have a good mentor, didn't have a good agent, because I would have told him not to play against Michigan, and that would have possibly have even got him in the bottom part of the first round. And because had we lost with Ty Simpson, my stomach wouldn't be hurting right now. I mean, my stomach's in turmoil. But had we lost with Ty, my stomach wouldn't be hurting right now.
Well, the tough part is he's a captain. They made him one before the season. He was voted team MVP as well, one of the 2 team MVPs.
Yeah.
And Booker played. Scott and I talked about this. Booker played, said, but, even before the Iron Bowl, whatever, I'm playing no matter what happens, no matter what our postseason fate is. And Jihad played. And then we all know if Deontay Lawson doesn't get hurt, he plays. And same way with Malachi Moore. And that's all, that's all your captains. And so if you're opting out, you're not really looking great. So,
but here's the thing. But here's the thing, though, too, Drew. If Jalen Milroe doesn't play in that bowl game, I mean, okay, you put Ty Simpson in there, but what are you proving?
I mean, the only thing it would have done, and which would have been enjoyable for me, and Pat was I think it's what Pat's referring to, is you get a chance to see the guy behind him that may be the future, because he's going to be the first up. It's like a similar thing with Mac Jones, where we got to see extended things with Mac because Tua got hurt. He started against Arkansas at home, played well, and then Tua comes back, and then Tua gets hurt again. Then you see him start
hurt.
Yeah, then you see. But what I'm saying, the point is, you saw Mac on the road at Auburn. Even though he threw a couple of picks, they were just only one was really horrendous. The other was a ricochet. that was bad luck. He played, though, but he made all these plays, played well. And then we all know what he did in the bowl game against Michigan. He played exceptional football. And so you were really confident whether it was going to be him or Bryce. Some people still thought it would be Bryce. I didn't once I had seen Mac several times. That Mac was going to be an outstanding player the next year. This would have given you more of an idea because Ty Simpson, he's only extended action of his career was against South Florida last year. He was decent. This year in the mop-up duty, not great. It was okay. We would have been able to see him get prepared as the starter and go out and try to execute. Now we really don't know, and I think that's what Pat's referring to. It's a truly wide-open competition with him, Austin Mack and Keelan Russell, who played in the Under Armour game yesterday and avoided, thank goodness, a serious injury for Alabama's sake, because I still think he's going to be heavily involved in this process. Matter of fact, I went on the Chuck Oliver show. I shook some people up. Chuck asked me, Drew, who's going to take the first snap against Florida State? I said Keelan Russell, only because as hard as that is to think about, and I hadn't even seen him practice, let me say that, and I'd rather see that first. But I know the coaching staff thinks he's special and as good as any prospect I think that they've ever evaluated. Yet I know Ty is going to be the first up. Everybody knows that. That's why he waited. He waited for his opportunity. He didn't come through in the 2023 spring, but he's getting a rare mulligan, and he's going to get another shot to do this. And maybe he's matured enough to win this job. I still think it's more him and Keelan. We'll see on Austin Mack. I think but he's only 18 years old. And I'm not sure he's as good a player as Keelan Russell. But right. We'll see. That's going to play itself out. It's going to be a three-way dance. But, again, it would have been nice to see him. But much like Kalen DeBoer was in a tough spot when he inherited Milroe because of what Milroe had done the year before, Jalen Milroe was in a tough spot because all your teammates are playing that matter, okay, not the ones that left in the transfer portal. So it's kind of on you to play. And then he goes out and he doesn't play well, even though they played complementary football, special teams, and defense-wise, but they just did not as an offense.
All right, let's go to Richard on the phone lines as well. Good morning, Richard.
Morning, Richard.
Morning, guys. I mean, I know in the playoffs they had the seeding screwed up, but all four teams that played the week before won.
Yeah, none of the bye teams won. That's right.
All of your conference champions. 0 for 5 because there were five, ended up being 5 conference champions. Nobody won with a bye, and all 5 conference champions lose in the college football playoffs.
That's right.
One other thing, you're talking about Milroe, and I guess I don't know what the fellow for Boise, how many yards he rushed for, but in the quarterback, I mean, like if Notre Dame's quarterback doesn't rush for a handful of yards, they lose yesterday. But is the RPO basically killing tailbacks running the ball?
I mean, it's certainly.
Arizona State is about to, they featured him, and then Boise out, and then that's one thing on Milroe is, you never had Auburn. I think they actually designated the they call it tailback run, but almost every play and he could have been doing the RPOs choosing it himself to keep the ball. But, I mean, almost nobody in the SEC except Tennessee could run the ball with a tailback.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, and people get frustrated by that. But you made a great point, though. That's kind of where the game is right now. You look at Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley in the NFL; they're rarities. There's so many quarterbacks running the football now. Look at Jaden Daniels and what he's done in his rookie year with the Washington Commanders. So people getting pissed at offensive coordinators and why didn't you run it directly and things of that nature. That's just kind of where we are. And I've said it a million times, Richard. You listen to the show. Jalen Milroe, when he was at his best, ran the football first and foremost. And then if you could get him in a rhythm early with the passing game, then it was usually a good thing. But if he couldn't run the football, if he got off to a slow start, which is what we definitely saw in his last game in the ReliaQuest Bowl, he just was. You could never really get him going. I mean, it was going to be hit or miss the whole game.
I think a lot of it too is the defensive team. Like Oklahoma.
Yes.
Had
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Michigan. I mean, in Georgia, the second half shut him down. But I mean, but these teams that had a really good game plan to kind of stop him, and like LSU's just been terrible on defense 2 years in a row. I mean, they just basically ran the same play for Milroe, and LSU couldn't stop it out. But like I said, that's why they give up 40 points a game. But these teams will kind of really good defensive coordinators and good defensive team out, could stop him. But but a lot of it was just, almost too much on his shoulders versus if you'd had a tailback. Do we run the tailback and get 4 or 5 yards on first down?
Yeah, and I wanted to give you the stats. Ashton Genty, 30 carries, 104, no touchdowns, and 26 on one carry. So it was tough sledding. He was a really good player, but it was tough sledding for him to run the football.
Yeah, but like I said, if you had some tailbacks that kind of, you can go back. Bryce Young didn't have it. I mean, really, he had, he was the man by himself out there. But before him, we pretty much had good tailbacks at Alabama where you were getting 4 or 5 yards of rush, where it wasn't all on the quarterback.
Right.
No doubt.
For years, so.
And even Alabama's yards per rush numbers were good. It's just they didn't have a ton of carries for the tailbacks at times because Milroe had 20 touchdowns and led the team in rushing attempts.
Well, part of it was, he couldn't pass inside the 20. I mean,
right.
So, just like Michigan made him pass, and, we were like 0 for 8 or so and throwing it inside the 20 where, like against Auburn, they didn't stop they didn't stop the quarterback run, and he scored, 2 or 3 touchdowns in the red zone.
Yep. All right, Richard, thanks for the phone call, bud. But we are up against that hour break. When we come back, we got to switch the conversation. We got to talk SEC basketball. The conference getting ready to have some of their openers this weekend. It has been an impressive run so far for the Southeastern Conference on the hardwood. Chris Lee will help us talk it all next.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. For a limited time, G-Bank is offering a $250 bonus when you open a G-Bank Visa signature card. Apply today at vsin.com/GBank.
The college football playoff semifinal field is set after Notre Dame beat Georgia 23-10 last night at the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. Riley Leonard passed for a touchdown while Jaden Harrison returned to kick off 98 yards for a score. The game was delayed today after a deadly terror attack in the French Quarter in the early morning hours of Wednesday. Notre Dame advances to face Penn State at the Orange Bowl on Thursday, January the 9th. The Irish favored by 1.5. Penn State plus 105 on the money line, over under 46.5. And the other semifinal game, Texas battles Ohio State on Friday the 10th in the Cotton Bowl Classic. The Buckeyes favored by 6. Texas plus 190, over under 53.5. Ohio State the current betting favorite at plus 110 to win the national title. I'm Chuck Sanders on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
WCZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
SportsMed is the official team physicians of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. And if the pros trust SportsMed, you can too. SportsMed provides every service you might need for complete orthopedic care, specializing in orthopedic surgery, sports medicine, joint replacement, spine surgery, neurosurgery, and podiatry. And they offer their own brace shop, in-house full-body MRI, physical therapy, walk-in clinic, and so much more. 4 locations and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com.
This hour brought to you by SportsMed Orthopedic and Spine Center. Online at sportsmedalabama.com. Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
It's hour 2. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN, the Zone, SportsMed Orthopedic Surgery and Spine Center. Hey, give them a call, 256-881-5151. And you can experience the SportsMed difference. Give them a call today, helping us kick off hour number 2. They are. And kicking off and tipping off, I should say, SEC basketball this weekend. Conference play opening up around the league, and that means the best conference during the conference portion of the schedule, and we all know what the Southeastern Conference has done. We have filled you in on everything, and the road gets a little bumpy as we get out of the gates tomorrow. Drew, you're going to get 6th-ranked Florida, 10th-ranked Kentucky tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. That is one way to start. You're going to get top-ranked Tennessee, 23rd-ranked Arkansas tomorrow. 2nd-ranked Auburn will host Missouri, and a game you're going to hear on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. 5th-ranked Alabama, 12th-ranked Oklahoma. I mean, the SEC is opening up the conference slate saying, bam.
They really are. It's been the best league in the country. I don't think there's any question about that. To start the college basketball season and go through the pre-conference. It's been an amazing run. We're going to have our for the first time in our new year in 2025. He's been a huge part of the show since I've been with 97.7 The Zone, but it's always great to catch up with him. They have a booming YouTube channel that is now Southeastern 16. Albeit it's been their first fall as a Southeastern 16 with the expansion of football. The expansion of basketball has gone ridiculously well so far with the additions of Oklahoma and Texas. And now we are going to talk about the opening conference weekend that I think everybody's been waiting on. And we may even talk a little Vandy football because the mayor of Nashville could be returning, Scott. And he led the mayor led Vanderbilt to a bowl win. They actually did hold up their end for the SEC.
That's just crazy to say that Vanderbilt shined during the bowl season in what has been a crappy bowl season for the league.
It really has. But we're talking about Chris Lee, of course, the publisher of VandySports.com, part of the Rivals Network, and the founder of Southeastern 16. Chris, Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. Where the SEC is better in basketball than it is in football, and I don't think anybody's even arguing it right now.
No, it's not even a debate. But before we get into that, your thoughts on the bowl win for Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia potentially coming back as well. What a development. We never even thought about this happening even 2 months ago as far as him coming back.
Yeah, I mean, stuff was out there here and there, but I didn't know what it was. Really, I think until about a week before the lawsuit became public, I started to hear whispers of how he could get eligible. And it was pretty crazy. And I thought, frankly, just looking from afar, it felt like a tough suit to win. But I think they thought they had a chance, among the reasons being that I think everybody feels that the NCAA is headed to a 5-to-play-5 model anyway.
Yes.
And so that sort of, from what I understand from some background with the judge, opened the door for that that injunction to be granted the way that it was.
Chris, kind of help our listeners and explain that 5-to-5 situation.
Well, it's 5 years to play 5 seasons of football, and I think a lot of, it's complicated. I think you still have the student athlete concept out there. How many people actually go to class and do schoolwork anymore? I'm not sure, but it's still technically a part of the framework. I mean, it is called college football. So look, the NCAA. The bottom line, the NCAA has just been getting clocked in court at every opportunity. I mean, I think I could. Well, I'll put it this way. When's the last time the NCAA won legally on anything in which it stood? When you keep what really was billions of dollars that in any other framework of society that's not, the side of communist China. But the way, I guess what I'm trying to say, and I'm sorry I'm stumbling through this, the way the world works is, you have people who do the work and people who supervise the work, and they split the profits. And for decades, the NCAA had sort of roped all this off and said, nope, amateurism, we're protecting the kids, whatever, and bullied everybody into submission because what choice do they have? Especially when the pro leagues don't let you enter until a certain age, and there's no way to compete with the NCAA. I mean, where are you going to go? Play, minor league football at 18? And the point I'm getting at is every time this goes to court, the NCAA ends up taking losses. So at this point, it almost feels like whatever you want to allege, as long as you've got a solid case, you take the NCAA to court, you're going to win, and that's what happened.
And now, a really bright future for Vanderbilt football going into next year. Anyway, a lot of expectation, a complete 180, for Clark Lee. And Scott and I always have loved Clark and hearing from him at SEC Media Days, but a completely different feel now around that program.
It is, and I think the big thing, guys, lost in all the Pavia stuff, they went 7-6 this year.
Yeah.
And I thought when they drew Georgia Tech, this felt like a team in Vanderbilt that had kind of been running on fumes. Some injuries had started to take their toll. And, what did Vanderbilt build? And I'm not trying to downplay what they did, okay? But a lot of what Vanderbilt did was possible because you don't run into a scheme week in and week out like theirs, okay? It's like playing a service academy in a bowl.
Yeah.
You don't really want to do that because you're not familiar with it. And then once you get familiar, they could throw another wrinkle at you. So I thought playing Georgia Tech, a team that frankly was – does a lot of the things and sees a lot of the stuff in practice with Haynes King like Diego Pavia runs. I just thought, man, this side of playing a playoff team, which wasn't going to happen, that's just like one of the worst possible matchups, especially having watched how they played Georgia and how physical they were in the trenches. All that to say, I thought, maybe it might behoove them to fall out of the pecking order and, play Miami of Ohio in one of these non-SEC bowls because the league had filled its allotment. I think them going and winning that game and winning it decisively, not that going 6-6 to that point was a fluke, but it was like a cherry on top of the sundae. You beat a team that was a tough matchup, a team that had been playing well, a team that wanted to be there, a team that had everything to play for, a team that had some opt-outs but not to the level that some other teams had. I thought, to me, when you go 7-6 as Vanderbilt, you broke the losing streak of seasons. But, and I don't mean to take a shot here at a particular school, but you remember how those years that Kentucky has gone 7-6 because they beat 3 MAC teams in Eastern Kentucky in September and then caught the bottom end of the schedule. And not that they haven't had some good teams, but Vanderbilt's wasn't like that, okay? They got quality wins. Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Alabama, Auburn. I know Auburn didn't make a bowl, but my point is it wasn't just 7-6, but they did some work within that. And the losses they lost, man, those were the top 25 teams for the most part. I give them big credit for what they did because there was nothing easy about it.
So what does Clark Lee now do going forward? Last year at this time, it was an exodus of guys going into the portal. I mean, it was just a new look Vanderbilt team this year. Is Vanderbilt able now to are they going to go out and get guys via the portal, or how does this change what Vanderbilt does going forward?
Well, there's 2 elements to that, right? There's really 3 elements. There's the losses you don't want, and there's what you add. The losses, they've lost, 15 or 20 players. The truth is only one of those guys, Gunnar Hansen, was really going to help them. Now, they had some other guys that could have played second and third team roles or special teams. And I think there's a couple guys in the portal that are checking around. And, if they get a better offer somewhere else and a chance to maybe start, they'll probably leave. But if they look around and the opportunity isn't so rosy, they could come back and help them next year, maybe play 100 or 200 snaps in a spot. But Gunnar Hansen's the only guy that they lost I think they were really wanting to keep. But, look, they are trying to get better in the portal. Last year was a revelation for them. Clark Lee sold last year's offseason saying, look, we need help in the portal. We got to play this game. And if we do it, we can get to a bowl. Now he's got proof of concept. They were going to move Hansen inside to guard. I don't think he liked that. He's now at Florida State. They have added a couple of offensive linemen who will probably start for them. They are pursuing a tackle from New Mexico State that it feels like they've got a shot at, who's a 6'8", 320-pound behemoth like a lot of schools have that they haven't had in a lot of years. So they've added some defensive players who will help them. And they added 5 or 6 guys last year, Pavia Stowers being 2 of them, that really helped them. It looks to me like they're on the way to doing that again this year. They don't lose a lot of pieces that were just indispensable. Now, I think they've got to get better at some places that they haven't in the portal. But last year provided the foundation for Clark Lee to say, hey, look, if you arm me with some money and you loosen our academic requirements a little bit, we can go out and get some players who compete. Honestly, guys, I thought the gap between where they were and where they needed to get for that to happen was just too big for it to be realistic. Hats off to Clark Lee and staff. They made it happen. I didn't think they could, and I don't think I'm alone there.
And now to switch to basketball, best conference in America. You just talked about it. Better in basketball than football. Who'd have thunk it? But it's been almost like a mid-'80s Big East type run through the pre-conference. This looks like that league as far as how tough it is from top to bottom. Your thoughts on the opening weekend? We've got Alabama taking on an undefeated Oklahoma team. Nobody saw Oklahoma being this good, I don't think, in the preseason. They've been outstanding so far. Auburn will host Missouri. But your overall thoughts on the opening weekend, Chris?
First of all, I love the comp that you dropped there, the 80s Big East, because it feels like that, maybe into the 90s too. I still regret that conference is no more.
Yes, I really do.
Because the rivalries, the Madison Square Garden tournament, all that, we are not better off as college sports for losing that. But it feels like, and I say feels like, look, we got a long way to go between here and there. And if you want to be skeptical about it, right, the league did pretty well when it got challenged, right? But let's also be honest. 80% of the games that the league played were also, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody here, but Vanderbilt playing New Orleans and Tennessee playing Austin Peay and, those kind of games in which, with the possible exception of like South Carolina losing to North Florida and a couple like that just happen if you play enough games, you know who's going to win the game going in. The only question is,
by how much?
The SEC team going to win by 40, or are you going to get the occasional bat or what Colgate did to Kentucky, keeping that close? So a lot of the computer numbers have been generated against that. Now, having said that, the league more than held its own when it played, the big boys. You look at Tennessee going to Illinois and all those things, but there's a lot of ball to go between now and the end of the season, and so I think it certainly feels like the league is that kind of level. But we'll know here in about in about 3-4 months.
I mean, you got to look at some of the teams that come in with those rankings. Tennessee comes in obviously ranked number 1. Florida comes in number 6. Auburn comes in number 2. Arkansas is inside the top 25. Is there a team that you look at there now coming out of the league? I mean, Auburn, you got to put them in there. But is there a team that you sit there and say they really were the impressive team coming out of the non-conference portion?
Oh, I think it's Auburn.
Yeah.
We've had Auburn ranked number 1 in our power ranking since week 2. We didn't flinch when the pollsters made Tennessee number 1. And look, that is no shot at Tennessee.
No.
Tennessee's a really, really good team. But, man, what Auburn has done, and let me see if I can pull these up just to make sure I'm right. But you look at the wins they got. They got Houston, Iowa State, Memphis, Ohio State, Purdue. I don't know how much it gets talked about where you guys are. I'm guessing it's been brought up before. But not only those great wins, but if you remember last year, the one question we had about them was, okay, they're great in their building. All 5 of those games that they won were not in their building. And the only loss was a game to Duke with the kid on the other sideline who's maybe going to be a generational talent. Not to mention some really good pieces, and I mean, who really goes to Cameron Indoor and wins anyway? And Auburn gave it a run on what was probably not its best night. I just think that, back to what I said a minute ago, a lot of these computer numbers, and I do think the league is legitimately great. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of these computer numbers have been built up against teams that are overmatched. And Tennessee didn't share that. Auburn, on the other hand, went out and beat teams. And again, not that Tennessee and Kentucky and some of the teams haven't gotten a couple of wins that are really impressive here and there, but nobody did it like Auburn. You look at the wins, you look at the computer numbers, you look at whatever you want to look at. To me, they are the clear number one team in the league.
And then what are your thoughts on this Alabama-Oklahoma game? I know you guys, Blake Lovell and Max, all you guys, I was watching your predictions. It sounds like you like Alabama at home in this matchup. But Porter Moser, we know he went to the Final Four with Sister Jean and Loyola Chicago. I mean, they've been a surprise, though. I saw that amazing comeback win against Michigan. I know they beat Arizona. But what are your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, the predictives aren't big on Oklahoma. And you look at the biggest wins they got. They got Arizona, a team that the computers really like, although the win-loss record hasn't matched up. So I'm not sure what that's worth. And then they beat a Michigan team on a neutral floor that I think is a really good team.
Yeah.
And a really tough matchup. And really hit Oklahoma where I thought it would have trouble. I did not expect Oklahoma to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
When you got 2 7-footers on the floor at the same time against a team that strength is not built inside, that tells me that maybe the predictives are sleeping on Oklahoma a little bit. Now, having said that, I think Alabama has been, gosh, I don't want to say a mess because that's not indicative of the program, but with the injury situations and stuff like that, you guys know what I mean. Like, they haven't had any time to get continuity. They get one guy in, another guy goes out. Mark Sears wasn't the same. I just have a feeling with what Nate Oates has done and what we know that the kids on that team are capable of doing, that Alabama's going to get it right, and they're going to be a factor in the conference race. And I feel like that's a lot for Oklahoma to walk into in Tuscaloosa. I think it could be a game because I think, again, Oklahoma's maybe been slept on a little bit. But I just think Alabama and Mark Sears and those guys are too much. And eventually, their best basketball, I'm going to guess, is still ahead of them. But even without it, they've got enough talent where I think they can beat Oklahoma and Tuscaloosa, even if they're not clicking on all cylinders yet.
Mm-hmm. How good are they and how good can they be? And I'm talking about Florida.
Yeah, they've been really good early, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question because that's a team, again, that they have just obliterated everything in their path. I think the North Carolina win was a good one. North Carolina had its back against the wall. It's listed as a semi-away game, but who are we kidding? That was in Charlotte. Some of the other wins they got, Arizona State's a team that the net likes. The other predictives don't really see that as a tournament team. So we're looking at a team that, we could look back in mid-March and say none of these teams that Florida beat in its non-conference schedule are going to get in the NCAA tournament. Again, I think North Carolina and Arizona State are your best bets. I'm not sure if that's going to hold up or not. But just because you haven't beaten a heavyweight doesn't mean that you are not worthy of being a top team in the country. I think the game at Kentucky is going to tell us a lot. Kentucky's had cracks at times. I think Florida's guard play is tremendous. I don't know. I feel like Florida's a better team than Kentucky. Is Rupp the place to settle that debate definitively? I don't know. That's a tough place to win. But Clayton, Elijah Martin, all those guys, that is a supremely talented backcourt. And I'm kind of like you. I'm just kind of waiting to see how does it play out against the better teams. And certainly starting Kentucky away, Tennessee home, Arkansas away is going to be a fantastic litmus test.
And then my finally, as we're wrapping it up, we appreciate the extended conversation. This is Chris Lee, Southeastern 16 and BandySports.com. Is Rick Barnes going to continue to have Cal's number in Thompson Bowling Arena? Because it seems like Rick has had a lot of success against Cal lately.
Probably. Arkansas to me is just a complete wild card. Guys, they're really talented.
Yes.
Really, really talented. But they can't get John L. Davis healthy for any length of time. That wrist injury, which was bothering him before the season, still seems to bother him. And, look, I'm just not a big guy on playing guys through injury and rolling them out there.
Mm-hmm.
If they're temporarily having to sit out, I just don't think when you've got other guys on the team like DJ Wagner, and the freshmen that they brought in, that's wise. I'm not John Calipari. He's probably right, and I'm probably not. But that one worries me. They've had Adu hurt. They've had Trevon Brazile hurt. So they've kind of been bitten by the injury bug. And I've kind of called them all year. When people have asked me to grade them, I give them an incomplete just because of all that. But at the same time, they've still got a lot of talent. And it's starting to feel a lot like the last 4 or 5 years at Kentucky, where the results weren't exactly the sum of the parts. If there's a coach in college basketball that gets the most out of his talent year in and year out, Rick Barnes is, if not at the very top of that list, he's really close. That game being in Food City, where Tennessee rarely loses, give me the Vols without much of a thought. But, Arkansas does have the talent to make it interesting, so you never know.
Well, great stuff from Chris Lee, Southeastern 16. We appreciate the time, sir. Again, Happy New Year to you. Thank you for all the knowledge, and love Diego Pavia. He's what's right with college football. Glad he'll very likely be back in a Vandy uniform. It's better for the SEC, and certainly, hopefully, the SEC and football will be better next year. But we certainly know they're going to rule the world, hopefully, in basketball and baseball. Thank you, sir.
Hey, it's going to be a fun year. Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to hopefully a few of these to come.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Let's get that break in. Phone line's open to you, 256-576-4977.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
You've got to experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
You'll love the expanded wine selection at Liquor Express. From special occasion to everyday table wines, they've got what you need. Meet your friends at the largest tap wall in Alabama with 105 rotating selections. Then take home a growler full of your favorite or choose from our 1,000 canned or bottled beers. Need help stocking your bar or planning your party? Liquor Express has a knowledgeable, professional in-house staff that can assist you with anything from your bar to the planning of your special event. Visit liquorexpress.net for tasting specials, giveaways, and classes.
Normally, when you call a roofing company, all you hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Since 1965, the folks at Fleming have been focused on what you need, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement, commercial or residential. And when it comes to storm damage, you want Fleming on your side. They know all the ins and outs of insurance claims and will guide you through the entire process. Log on FlemingHSV.com and book your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Owen Home Appliance Center features the biggest names in home appliances like Viking, Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, GE, and Frigidaire. But they also have great brands that you may not know, like Mela, Forno, Z-Line, Invisicook, and Beko. But no matter what, they all get delivered the day you buy, and they service everything they sell. And at the Lacey Spring Showroom, just 8 miles south of the river on 231, you'll find a totally interactive showroom where you can hear the dishwashers wash, and the freezer's free, and see the cookies get baked in the double ovens. Owen Home Appliance Center will even wash and dry a load of clothes for you so that you can see how great the products are. And they have ice machines making all kinds of ice, cubed, nugget, and top hat. How is that for variety? Owen Home Appliance Center believes in community involvement as well, sponsoring youth teams, race cars, and an annual Easter egg hunt. Quality products, quality pricing, quality service is the name of the game for Owen Home Appliance Center. Find them in Somerville and Lacey Springs and online at owenappliance.com.
The best in local sports talk from the 256. We are local.
When you're number one, you don't have to worry.
We are award-winning. Thank you for listening. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
You'll be set for life.
I want to spend some time with you. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us.
There we go. That song is kind of funny because there's a lot of Alabama fans that would just like to be the two of us with Jalen Milroe. We've gotten some Twitter comments this morning.
I'm more the Duck Dynasty he gone thing.
One says, Christoph on Twitter says, it felt like we won a national championship once announced he was leaving, or a late Christmas gift. We got another one that says C+. No one pushed him to get better by sending a message, you are the starter. So those are a couple of the messages that we got this morning in regards to Jalen Milroe.
Well, all I'll say is he won the job fair and square last year. I mean, look, Ty Simpson was given every opportunity. There's some people that act like that Ty wasn't given a fair shake. He was in 23. He lost the job. Why do you think they brought in Tyler Buckner after spring? Because they weren't satisfied with either Ty or Jalen, but neither one of them could beat out Milroe. He won the team, won the job. He was not going to be, unseated going into this year. And then, I mean, you can question why he was never, Ty was never given an opportunity in some of those games where, the kid, where he was struggling, especially in the Oklahoma game where you fell behind 3 scores. But that was a weird game, too. You remember the weird, stupid call that never should have happened that took a touchdown off the board. It would have cut it to 2 scores. And then, again, you weren't going to put Ty in against Tennessee on the road. That just wasn't going to happen. I'm sorry. And then, again, I understand people were frustrated because they lost to Vandy, but Milroe put up numbers in that game. And so I just don't – when you look at the way Alabama lost football games, going into the Oklahoma game, Alabama, if they won, they would have been in the playoff. And, again, they were trying to fight back. They had a couple of touchdowns called back. I didn't think it really opened itself up. I could have seen him get a shot in maybe in the fourth quarter against Oklahoma, but I didn't expect it. And certainly we've already ad nauseum talked about how the bowl game unfolded.
Yes.
It's just one of those things. And this is the NIL era, people. He was kind of beholden to him, but not anymore.
One of the topics we have not had a chance to visit about is what about Ole Miss's performance last night against Duke. Now Lane Kiffin.
Does that make up for Kentucky?
Lane Kiffin afterwards said they wanted to make a statement because they felt like they were disrespected by not.
You lost to Kentucky at home, who won 4 games. You didn't even have as good a case as Alabama nor South Carolina, Ole Miss. I'm sorry. I mean, I guess you could say maybe South Carolina since they mudholed South Carolina. I guess I could say that. But look, Ole Miss, if Alabama's not going to be in the playoff, Ole Miss wasn't because they lost to Kentucky. I kept saying that. If they had just beat Kentucky, they would have been in. Okay.
Yeah, and they said they wanted to make a statement. But they wanted to make a statement because Duke or whatever beat SMU. Or whatever, and so they felt like they wanted to make a statement.
Very talented team, man. I still say the most talented in the SEC.
Underachieved.
Yeah, they just underachieve. It's Lane Kiffin. If you look him up on Wikipedia, they should put underachiever next to it because that's all he ever does, except with women.
Okay, there we go.
Just tell the truth on this show.
You just told the truth. You just told the truth.
That was a G-rated version. I'm not going to get in any trouble for this.
You have. Well, no, I applaud you for all efforts. You have been a voice of reason this morning. You've talked a lot of people off a cliff.
I've tried. At least that's what I've been told. I've been the voice of reason. I'm talking people off cliffs. That's what I've been told.
Is that what you've been told?
Yeah. I know. Looking on social media, I guess.
Oh, that darn social media. It'll get you every time.
People asking me about Keelan Russell, but Keelan, got the quarterback we were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, there was some video yesterday that surfaced from the All-American game.
Yeah, he got a little banged up, man. There was even people terrified he tore his Achilles. That didn't happen. He kind of got his ankle folded a little bit. He sprained it, but he played well before that. But again, I don't really, Scott, and I know you're shocked by that. I don't pay attention to these All-Star games because again, I've seen seen them before. I've seen guys light it up, then do nothing. I've seen guys like Trent Richardson have 5 yards because he got hardly any carries, people panicking, and he becomes like the Doak Walker Award winner and the 3rd pick in the draft. I don't take a whole lot from these things. Just like, you know how much I love the Pro Bowl. I mean,
oh
my
gosh!
wow.
I thought about you yesterday.
Yeah.
I really did, because the Pro Bowl rosters were announced, and I was like, oh my gosh! I know
these All-Star games are about as good as the Pro Bowl. Just name somebody an Under Armour All-American and let them go to school. Because what if they get hurt in these games anyways?
I know you drove straight home and with great anticipation sat in front of the TV to hear out the Pro Bowl rosters were announced.
Who?
I know you did.
I mean, I know Alabama have like 10 Pro Bowlers. That's great. I mean, just have some sort of John Madden type, now like ceremony or something. By the way, you rest in peace, Coach, because we miss him. But whatever. Just do it. Do some kind of ceremony, dinner, or whatever. Even the Pro Bowl games is a waste of time. It's just total stupidity. The whole thing is dumb. I mean, give somebody a 5-star meal. You could plan it, Scott. You love food. Give them a lot of food, a lot of conversation. You had a great year. Let's celebrate it instead of these stupid Pro Bowl game they don't even have anymore. These stupid drills. It's all stupid.
Let's throw some shrimp on the Barbie, and we'll call it done.
Everybody loves food.
Oh, well, I know. You know what, though? I made the mistake last night at 10:30 or 10:15 eating some Chipotle.
Uh-oh. I had my first Chipotle a couple weeks ago. Very, very good,
think?
by the way.
It was good, isn't it?
It was really good. Chicken and steak.
Oh, wow. You should have went the brisket, too. The
I've been told that. I really regretted it, man. I really did. I was smelling it. Other people were eating it around me. I've got to go try it.
All right. We've got to try getting a break in, because when we come back, Ryan Fowler is going to join us.
Now I'm getting hungry. Thanks a lot.
Oh, what is it pancakes after the show?
Something. Maybe Bubby's, Metro, one of our sponsors.
Hey, I went to the Pancake Pantry in Nashville.
Uh-oh.
And they had a pecan pancake.
Is it good?
I didn't get it. I got just normal pancakes because I just like normal pancakes. I didn't get all that stuff in it. But
I love pecan waffles.
Yes. I was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I was like, that would be just for you. They didn't have waffles though. They just had pancakes. So if you go to the pancake pantry, you have to eat pancakes. Yes.
Yeah, I'd probably get kicked out if I ordered a waffle.
Yeah, they'd just look at you and be like, we don't have it. We got to get a break in. We got Ryan Fowler coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the grade for Jalen Milroe and more coming up next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. A partly sunny sky this afternoon. Temperatures climbing just into the mid and upper 40s. We're going to see the sky clear as we head into the overnight early Saturday morning. That's going to allow temperatures to drop into the mid and upper 20s. A mostly sunny sky Saturday afternoon really is going to look nice. Plenty of sunshine. A beautiful Saturday, but we are going to be cold. The sunshine doesn't necessarily mean we warm up. Highs only climb into the mid 40s. Dropping into the mid 30s as we head into the overnight early Sunday morning. Rain's going to begin to build into the Tennessee Valley Sunday morning. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Ryan Radke here from Sunday Night Football on Westwood One. Mike Golick and I are set for Week 1 NFC action from Detroit when the Lions play host to the LA Rams. Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and the Rams saw their season end in a wild-card loss in Detroit last year. Can Jared Goff and the Lions get him again? Join us to find out on Sunday Night Football.
Right here on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. Salt and pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine. Hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack Mr. Magic Molly Mall. I let my tape rock till my tape pop. Smoking with you bamboo, sipping on private stock. Way back when I had the red and black lumberjack with the hat to match. Remember rapping Duke? The hard, you never thought that hip-hop would take it this far. Now I'm in the limelight cause I rhyme tight. Time to get paid, blow air, stir without a born sinner. The opposite of a winner. Remember when I used to eat sardines for dinner? Peace to Ron G, Brucey B, Kid Capri.
There you go.
Censored version.
It better be the censored version. Bailey's already in the hole.
Yeah. Well, we had to dump somebody yesterday too, man. You remember our good friend Rod? I mean, he kind of went off.
He got a little.
Wasn't my fault. I didn't say it. You know.
Like I said, you're just paying other people to say it now.
Yeah, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
On our Twitter page, we have a question, and it's a question on what grade would you give Jalen Milroe as a starting quarterback during his tenure at Alabama? A, B, C, or a D? 30% have given him a B. 42% of our votes have given him a C, and 26% of our votes have given him a D. Nobody has given Jalen Milroe an A, and I'm wondering what our next guest would think.
Well, nobody gave him an F, right? I mean, at least they didn't do that.
I didn't put an F on there.
Well,
I went
okay.
A, B, C, and D.
I have to admit,
because you can only do 4 choices.
Well,
I didn't give him an F.
You can't give him that.
You can't give him an F. Yes.
Hey, I heard onions in the background. Good call, Steve. I really enjoyed that.
We had to get them up. We had to get onions up
this
morning.
I know we did, but I enjoyed it a lot more than the one I watched on social media from I guess the Sad Sacks over there at Union where they got kicked in the nuts. I mean, good.
Good.
And,
well, they thought he was a freshman anyway.
Well, I mean, come on, man. Why?
No, they did.
Dude could have took 2 more dribbles and thrown up a 30-footer. What the hell was he doing? But I'm glad he did.
They called Blake Campbell a freshman all night. They thought he was a freshman.
Hey, Ronnie Stabler said this. That's why plumbers don't do basketball games, okay? That's
Well,
why
they
Steve
had a couple
Moulton
plumbers.
and Scott Tyson did it. And our next guest is not a plumber. He is a longtime 20-year radio host.
Say no to crack.
Oh, Lord. The longest I did not say that. The longest running radio show in the city of Champions in Tuscaloosa on Tide 109. It is The Game, and the host, Ryan Fowler, a native of Susan Moore, or North Alabama, and a graduate of Susan Moore High School. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm good. I'm just sitting here thinking about my grade, though. I mean,
Jalen Milroe, what would you grade him? We're going to ask right off the top here.
You know, it's been a roller coaster.
It has.
His highs are really, really high, and his lows are really, really low. I guess, you know, if you average that together, right? Because there's some F grades out there.
You've had some F grades?
There's some F grades.
Wow.
Some F.
I can't go there. I can't do that.
No, listen to me.
No, I get it, though, Ryan, because his highs are like A's.
Yeah, he had some F games.
Like Fs. Yeah. So if you middle that out.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying overall. I'm just saying, you know, as far as overall, I mean, maybe a low C. I mean, I just can't justify. I mean, when you look at some of the talent around him, this offense never clicked. I mean, guys, I lose track with a number of people that we have blamed because of Jalen Milroe. I mean, literally. I mean, look at the wide receivers. I mean,
3 wide receivers, 2 offensive line coaches. I mean, whatever you want to say.
We blame Seth McLaughlin.
Bill O'Brien, Tommy Rees, Nick Sheridan, Kalen DeBoer. We even threw the greatest football coach in the history of mankind under the bus, right? I mean, we even said Nick Saban just can't coach him. You know, what's the common denominator? Maybe it's Jalen Milroe. So yes. I guess if you ask me, I'm going to go probably a C-. I will say this. The way that Jalen Milroe will be remembered, I think one day we'll understand how he kept that team together, that locker room. And I do think that is probably his claim to fame, right? And I think that probably at the end of the day probably helped him with Kalen DeBoer more than a lot of people, you know, wanted to admit. You know, I still think when I look back at the game on Tuesday, out of any other game, I just, you know, because they knew he was going pro. I mean, this decision was made probably 2 weeks ago, and I will tell you that he was waiting for the most beneficial time for the University of Alabama. And let's say that, you know, if you go to recruiting and Keelan Russell had some hesitation, then I think they were going to pull it out and say, okay, guys, you know, Milroe's going pro. So I think they were kind of waiting for this, you know, moment. They knew that, you know, that he was going pro. And when you look at, you know, Jalen Milroe, I think his ceiling is also very high when he goes into the NFL. I mean, I think when you look at him, guys, I mean, he's got an arm.
Has every physical tool you need.
Yes, but between the ears, where he lacks his biggest deficiency is literally it's trying to understand how to not take one negative play and turn it into 5 negative plays.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his lows just go so low that it creates more lows. And, one bad play, a fumble, an interception, it's like trying to get him out of that valley is like trying to get Joe Biden up in the morning.
I mean, no question. I mean, he has an upside, but it's just so he's so I guess enigmatic. I mean, you never know. And you and I were there to cover his last home game. It was his entire career in a nutshell against Auburn. So many great plays, but then the turnovers to keep Auburn in the game. Because I think we all know that should have been a 4 or 5 touchdown win, Ryan.
No, it should have been. It should have been. And it was because – and I guess that's where I go back is I couldn't give him a B because even some of the moments, like Georgia, I mean, there was great moments in that game, but there was also some moments that you're like, all right, what's happening? What's happening? And people say, well, did he regress? No, I think people just caught up with what he was able to do.
Watching
and
tape.
I think they,
right.
Yeah. I mean, he did so many things. I don't think he kept the running backs happy. I don't think he kept the wide receivers happy. The offensive line, you never knew where he was going to go. Like I said, I mean, I look at it, I'm trying to be as honest as I can, but I'm also trying to be fair. I think there's many things that you appreciate about Jalen Milroe, and there's other things that it's very frustrating to watch his game. And I've even seen, some of the big Jalen Milroe fans in Tuscaloosa kind of celebrate, his departure, to say, I think it's best for both parties. It's best for Jalen Milroe, and it's also best for the University of Alabama that he goes to his next stop and his next choice, and that's the National Football League.
And
so now where does Alabama turn, in your eyes, where does Alabama turn to then next year? Is this the Ty Simpson show? Is this the Keon Russell show? I mean, where do we go?
I think they're going to let Keon Russell compete. I think that's the promise when you go out and get a top, quarterback. And I think, look at the Under Armour game, when I first saw him hit, it was very scary, right? I mean, it did. But I go back, I just think that there's a big adjustment. If this was Nick Saban needing to, just survive 2025, but Kalen DeBoer needs a lot of positive momentum. I just don't know if you can roll a true freshman out there. I understand his skill set. I get it. But I think the complexity of his system, I mean, listen, when you look at Austin Mack, and not that he was going to unseat Michael Penix, but he was a reclassification guy. He's a guy that you keep an eye on. But I think Ty Simpson is here for a reason. I think when you look at Ty Simpson, I've heard a lot of great things behind the scenes. I think the way that he has managed his role on this team also gives him some brownie points with the coaching staff, that he's not been this, play me, get me money, I need NIL, I need this, I need this. I'm sure he wants to be treated fair, but I think Ty Simpson, when he chose to come back, and I broke that story that Ty Simpson was going to come back in the spring, is I think he thought he had a role in this football team. I think he thought he was a guy that could have a role. Let's say if Milroe went down with an injury. But you continue to see him locked in. And, yeah, there's moments that, I think he's probably pressing a little bit. But I think he'll probably get the first reps coming out of spring. I think I don't see it as an equal, a third. I think you could probably see it, maybe 50 and then 25. I think Ty Simpson, if you ask me to bet right now, 238 days away from Florida State, I would probably go Ty Simpson, who takes that opening start. I just think I think he's here for a reason. I think he believes that he's here for a reason. And for him staying locked in tells me that he believes that he can win the job. I will tell you that he's a risk taker. He's going to throw it, but there's not a throw on that field that he doesn't think that he can make. And I've heard that from too many people inside the building that look and go, now, see, there's repercussions with that. Where Jalen Milroe was very hesitant, even though he did throw quite a few interceptions in that final, season. What did he throw? 11, 12,
yep.
12, something like that. But I think Ty Simpson's going to throw interceptions, but he's also going to make those throws that that Milroe just kind of put in his back pocket and would not throw because the confidence wasn't there. I think the difference is Ty Simpson's got that confidence and he'll throw. I mean, he's going to throw, but he also is a guy that I think his athletic ability. Most of us have seen it now, but I think that's also a part that's underestimated about his game.
It is. It's underrated, and he definitely is the leader in the clubhouse. I went on Chuck Oliver yesterday, shook some people up because he asked me who I thought would take the first snap against FSU. I said Keelan Russell. I've hesitated to say it publicly until yesterday, only because you want to see the guy practice first. And, Tua blew me away the first time I ever saw him scrimmage.
Sure.
And then, of course, I know how good Bryce Young was. He made plays that made your jaw drop even as a backup. We haven't seen this kid yet, but I just know the coaches think he's special as well. And it'll take a lot. It'll take a lot for him to beat him out. And then there's Austin Mack too. But I just think overall, it's going to just depend on Ty's maturity. And if you're right about what you've said, and that's been your point, Ryan. If he's matured, I think Ty does have a really good shot.
Yeah, and I think that was the issue around Ty. It was showing, where Milroe would allow those negative plays to become even more negative plays. I think Ty's issue is not allowing, the frustration to get to the best of you, because I think a lot of these kids, they go with the high school game and they kind of have their way with everybody.
Yeah.
When you get to this league, I mean, there's going to be moments that you just have to forget about, that you're going to throw awful plays and you're going to be out. I can't believe I just did that. Well, you have to be able to show that frustration in other ways and come out and try to, prove people wrong or try to rebound in a, quick memory. But I also look back and, could we read into this? Take Dylan Lonergan leaving, okay? Because I thought he would at least stay around through the spring.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he thought this thing was a three-way battle or a two-way battle or whatever, then I thought he would stay around. That tells me something right there. When Dylan Lonergan put his name in the transfer portal, and it could have been monetary issues because we often forget about that. I mean, there could have been a value there. Who knows? Bill O'Brien might have been flirting out there with a transfer portal. But I think that's something else that I would kind of keep my eye on is why did he go in the portal? Because sometimes that tells you things that I don't think I can beat this guy out. And I thought Dylan Lonergan, as far as a gunslinger, he was a gunslinger. I mean, he was another guy that believes he can make every throw on the field.
He really did. And now I know you have your ear to the ground as well as any. In the last 12 hours or so, it's been reported by – Pete Nakos, especially of On 3, who's their transfer portal guy. It looks like Alabama is trying to add to the running back room, Ryan.
Okay, hold on. I just got a Pete Thamel's reporting Alabama co-defensive coordinator and defensive back coach Colin Hitchler has been informed that he will not return to the Crimson Tide next year. He has a year remaining on his initial contract.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Okay, sorry,
breaking
guys.
news. Got some breaking news from Ryan Fowler here. So there will be coaching changes.
No, it's not for me. It's not for me. It's,
right. Pete Thamel, I'm reading it right now as well.
Pete Thamel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And Ryan, do you think this is just the beginning though of coaching moves now? That Kalen DeBoer has assessed his staff, and this will be the one of many, or the solo, or what do you think?
No, I think there's other changes coming. Because I got to really look at that defensive back room. I mean, now this really kind of gives me, because I think there's other changes. This is one that I probably did not see coming.
I would agree with that. I mean, I'd heard there's rumors he might not return, but I really thought the secondary as a whole improved a lot considering all the youth and new portal additions, Ryan.
Yeah, but I was fixing to tell you that there's an offensive lineman that they're also on campus too. I can't release it. Right. I can't release a name because they don't want it out there yet. But there's an offensive lineman that they had on campus yesterday, and even I think shared a meal with a couple of players, recruit, host, or whatever you want to say it, one of the coaches. So, but I do know that they're looking at a running back, and they want a change of pace guy. They want a different style than what they currently have. And I think they're looking at a couple different options, but man, that just completely shifts my mindset right there with this Colin Hitchler, though. I mean, I was fixing to go to the offensive line because it's hard now to go get a portal guy.
Yes.
Because you got to sell him on depth, right? You tell him that he can compete, but you're going after depth guys. You're not going after starters. Well, what do these kids want to do? They want to start. I mean, go try to sell a second-string guard to a kid. Hey, man, we want you to come in Tuscaloosa, and we want you to be a guard.
Yeah, Chris Lee just talked about that with Vandy. They lost a young man to Florida State because he didn't want to move from tackle to guard. So it happens, and again, that's probably the longest I've ever heard you pause, Ryan. I knew something was going on.
Sorry. No,
you're good. You're good.
I don't have. Well, I'm one of those guys. Guys, here's the problem.
Live real radio here.
Well, here's the thing. When I look at these, I'm always nervous that there's a fake Pete Thamel.
Oh, yeah. Jimmy Himes has 25.
Yes, yeah. And you'll look at it like I'll never forget when Chris Lowe tweeted out that Nick Saban was retiring. I was live on the air. And you don't know how many times you don't know how many times I checked that Chris Lowe account before I read that on the air. Like, is this real? Is this real? I mean, like I'm showing it. So I'm one of those that I like to double check, and because that guy living in his mom's basement at 45 years old playing PlayStation, those are the guys that create these fake Twitter accounts. I hate them. I hope you slide down a slide with razor blades, landing in a pool of alcohol. Okay, that's how I hope you end your life. No, I don't end your life.
Come on, you don't believe Richard G. West?
No, I hate all of those. I hate all of those fake accounts. Every single one of them. I hope you're. Never mind. I better be nice, but I don't like you.
This is we tell the truth here, so you're good.
Yeah, well, Ryan, we appreciate it. Thank you for breaking this news on our show. First of all, once again, Colin Hitchler not returning to Alabama, so could be more changes coming. I know one other change I'm praying for because I even told him last night if Freddie Roach and Jalen Milroe had left on the same day, I don't know what I would have done with myself.
Lord have mercy.
I know.
Is this guy from North Alabama? I'll leave it at there. I'll talk to you guys later. You guys have a great day.
Thanks, Ryan.
More breaking news, Scott Tyson, from another one of our friends that we know, John Summerall.
Yeah.
Did you see this one?
I did not see this one. No, I had
Passing
one that...
game coordinator Will Hall just hired by John Summerall.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Tell Steve Moulton, get on the horn.
Oh, man. And that's funny because, Will spent a lot of time there in Tulane before he got the job at Southern Miss.
That's a good point.
And, of course, he is the last Harlan Hill Award winner for UNA. And then Robbie Zell, we didn't get a chance to mention this yesterday. He's taken over at Wake Forest as the offensive coordinator at Wake Forest.
Ducks ain't crapping in the yard over at Wake Forest.
Of course, Robbie Zell from Athens High School there in Alabama. And then Vinny Sunseri is back in the state of Alabama.
Former guest on this show.
As he is the defensive coordinator at Jack State now.
Really happy for him. And, remember, we got to know Deshaun Davis. What a great dude he was in UNA. And he's going to Jacksonville State to be linebackers coach, Scott. We blew through the last break, but we had with all this breaking news.
Did you see this one as well? Indiana quarterback Curtis Rourke He played this year with a torn ACL.
Wow, the whole year?
Season. It is believed that he retore his ACL in August and then led the Hoosiers to the playoffs.
Jake Coker did it with a rod in his leg, but a torn ACL. Wow, man.
Yes.
Tough hombre there.
I mean, I think we put about as much in this show as we could have in the last 30 seconds.
This was a crazy show, man. Hey, I do know what buttons to press going forward. I did do some homework.
Bailey, we have a show Monday morning at 7.
Be safe, everybody. Go Chargers.
Specializing in simple and affordable rentals, McCurry Van and Car Rental can make sure you have just the right vehicle for your next family vacation, weekend getaway,